Now I'm pleased to introduce our esteemed panel of experts who will discuss the future of community colleges. So JOHANNA DUNCAN-POITIER, my friend, is the Senior Vice Chancellor for Community Colleges and Education Pipeline at the State University of New York. The pipeline reference is particularly apt for her since she has extensive experience with all components of the K-16 education system in New York. Now, I've been observing SUNY community colleges for many years, and so I can clearly see that she has brought new excitement and focus to community colleges in the state. I look forward to continuing to work with her on important projects. Michael McPHERSON has been a college professor, a dean, a college president, is now the president of the Spencer Foundation, which focuses entirely on education research. He's advocated for rigorous research, but he's also valued a variety of points of view, interacting regularly with business representatives, policymakers, practitioners, as well as researchers. As a result, he's one of the most insightful observers and leaders in higher education today. James MILLIKEN is the Chancellor of the City University of New York. He has had leadership experience in Nebraska, North Carolina, with a particular emphasis on the economic role of higher education, so he brings diverse experience to New York City. While CUNY has always been innovative, during his tenure, CUNY has embarked on a major reform initiative to double graduation rates for community college students. I hope these reforms succeed, not only because they're consistent with many of the ideas that we have championed at CCRC, but because they will benefit CUNY's highly diverse student body. So, thank you. All right, so we'll ask some questions and have a discussion. So, President McPHERSON, let me start with you. In the recent report of the Commission on the Future of Undergraduate Education, a commission that you co-chaired, there was some good news and some bad news. College enrollment continues to grow, and community colleges have been a major source of that increased enrollment. The economic benefits of colleges are strong, but college attainment rates are, as the report says, troublingly unequal. So what are 2 or 3 things that are most important things that community colleges could do to reduce the racial and income gaps in college attainment?
Well, let me first congratulate you and all your colleagues at CCRC on 20 fantastic years, and thank Dr. Biden for the tremendous leadership you've shown and the evident difference that it has made. As you said, the secret is out. So, you know, community colleges, I think it's important to say, already do a lot. We know that the probability of successful lives for our current generation and future generations of students depends on the accessibility and opportunity for college. And the data that you refer to, Tom, show that it remains true that the lifetime benefits of completing any kind of certificate or degree in higher education are measurable and important. But I think they also tell us that the probability that somebody's going to cross that finish line are much lower for people from historically disadvantaged groups, for low-income people. And not only is this deeply unfair, but it is also shockingly wasteful in a country that can't afford that kind of waste. So it seems to me that the community colleges already do a great deal. But as Dr. Biden said, completion is such an important matter. All the evidence is that the people who are most likely to get in trouble with repaying their debts, the people who wind up not benefiting from their experience in college, 4-year college, 2-year college, whatever, are the people who don't finish what they start. And they face tremendous odds because there are all kinds of challenges for the lives of people from the groups that I mentioned. And community colleges do a great deal to help with that. But I think the kind of thing that CCRC has developed with the new reform efforts, keep people focused on moving forward, on overcoming those barriers, and on finishing what you started, I think is just, would make the contributions of the community colleges even greater than they are now.
Thank you. Okay, well, that's a good lead into my next question. So which I'll ask both the Chancellor MILLIKEN and Vice Chancellor DUNCAN-POITIER the same question. Over the last decade, there's been a tremendous amount of reform activity in community colleges. This has been termed the completion agenda. Nevertheless, overall measures of student success have not improved enough. What do you think the colleges need to do to turn that reform activity into significant improvement in student success? And what steps has either CUNY or SUNY taken to do that? So would you like to start?
Sure, I'll start. I couldn't agree more that completion is the essential mission today. I mean, we know that talent's distributed evenly, but often opportunity is not. It still remains stubbornly correlated with wealth and position. So the kinds of things that CUNY is doing to address this with our student profile, 40% born in another country, 40% from households with 20,000 or less annual income, to even that playing field, to change the opportunity that they have is the ASAP program, which you know well and Teachers College knows well and has been a supporter of, the Accelerated Studies for Associate programs, where we've more than doubled the community college graduation rates. The 3-year graduation rates at urban community colleges in this country remain at crisis levels. And so a program like ASAP, which takes a number of things that are intuitive, it's not rocket science, but it's commitment and investment in the kinds of things that we know work. Full-time attendance, full scholarship, in New York City, Metro cards so that students can continue to get to class the way they got to high school. Moving through as a cohort so that they support each other. And finally, intrusive advising. That at so many of our institutions, we don't have the level of advising that we need. But these 6 or 7 elements combined together have made such an incredible difference. Taking, well, the average 3-year graduation rate at urban community colleges is still under 20%. Taking our students to 55% graduation rates over 3 years across CUNY. And now with the additional investment of the city and the state, we're ramping up to 25,000 students and taking one of our campuses, Bronx Community Colleges, with persistently, thank you. my partner, the president of Bronx Community College, is here. So we're going to demonstrate what was the question, the nagging question that we've been getting for years is, ASAP's a great program and it seems to work very well, but can you take it to scale? Can you make a difference at the college level? And that's what we're going to establish, and that's what's going to, I think, prove to people that we can do it and that the investment in a program like that's worth it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. For us, it really is the State University of New York. It is about investing in what works, evidence-based strategies that we know make a difference for students. I can't go on with this without saying thank you. Not only congratulations on your 20th anniversary, but really thank you. The work that we're doing in terms of investing in evidence-based strategies has so much to do with the work you, Tom, and your many colleagues at the Community College Research Center have made possible. We have really looked through your research regularly, so we don't have to do it all over again. We don't have any more time for pilots. We can't just impact a few hundred or a few thousand students. We have to impact the tens of thousands of students. The State University of New York has credit and non-credit 500,000 students in our community colleges. 30 colleges from the tip of Long Island to the Canadian border. 70% of those students need remediation. So in order for us to make a difference for them, taking advantage of the research and the evidence-based strategies we know work, we're doing 3 major things. The first is in partnership with our K-12 colleagues. We are no longer just saying, you know, if you sent us a better student, we'd have better results. We are working with our K-12 partners from with everything from bridge programs to our network of 60 early college high school programs, including P-TECH, which is linked with business and industry, and as the First Lady, you're my First Lady. As Dr. Biden said, working with business and industry is huge. There is no better motivator than to have students know that at the end of their tenure, they have a good paying job waiting for them. The second is we're completely rethinking the organization of our community colleges. We're looking at many different strategies, achieving the dream, the best of ASAP, the best of EOP, and of course, guided pathways. It just makes sense. I was sharing offline with someone, if I wanted to travel from Manhattan to Washington, D.C., would I prefer a GPS or would I just try to find my way there? I know how to get, I know I want to go, I want to get there, but with the help of having a simpler structure with the supports in place makes all the difference in the world. And many of our campuses are looking to pursue this. And the last of the three major things is math. We're looking at a completely different way of offering math. For many of us in this room, including myself, math is one of those major roadblocks to success. Students either at the very beginning don't do well with math and they don't persist, or we have students who wait until the very end. They're putting off that drastic, horrible thing until the end, and what happens? They drop out. And so, with the help of our partnership with the Carnegie Foundation and funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, we were able to scale up, bring to scale an evidence-based strategy of a pedagogical approach to math. Some know it as quant-way, stat-way, quantitative reasoning, statistics. But it is now at 29 of our campuses and has a success rate nationally, twice the success rate in half the time, which means 21% of the students in traditional DevEd math, 21% in a year, pass developmental math. With this new pathway, this new pedagogical approach, in one semester, nationally, 50% of the students move on to credit-bearing math. And last but not least, as we've brought it to scale, on 12 of our campuses that are actually teaching this course, almost 76% of the students are actually now passing math in one semester. It's huge. So last but not least on this point, the idea of having evidence-based strategies to scale make all the difference. And for the students that we just spoke of with math, these students believe they can do anything. They're not just doing well in math, they're doing math in science, they're doing well in science, they're doing well in English, except for me. They're doing so well because they believe if they can do math, they can do anything. So we thank you for your work and thank you.
Okay. So let's talk about affordability. Now we've heard from Dr. Biden about the community college promise, the free community college policy. So there's a lot of support. It's true, many states are doing that, but at the same time, there's some skeptics or critics about that. So let's ask, what do you think the best strategy is for making sure that financial problems are not standing in the way of any student in our community colleges? President McPherson, what would you?
So there's one point that I really want to make here about the free tuition strategy, which is that the version of that strategy that President Obama has advocated has a feature that many of the state policies do not. That feature is the money to finance free college, that is tuition of zero, comes before the Pell Grant. That is, if you're in a free tuition college, according to Obama's vision, and you get a Pell Grant, all of the money in that Pell Grant can go to support your living expenses. Many state programs say that first we'll take the Pell Grant, and if your Pell Grant doesn't cover the tuition, then we'll make it free. That's a very different proposition. It helps people who are further up the income scale, it doesn't help them more than real free tuition is what I would call it, helps them. But it's much less valuable for people at the bottom because they may use up all of their Pell Grant paying their tuition in some states and then have nothing left for living expenses. So if we're going to follow this path, I think it's really valuable to get the participants to do first dollar tuition free rather than last dollar tuition free.
So it's hard to be a skeptic of free community college when Jill Biden's in the room. And, you know, it does make, in theory, it makes perfect sense. I mean, we are basically providing non-discretionary funding through the 12th grade in this country, which we did 70 years ago. And we did it at a time when not many people were going to college and when the high school diploma was the coin of the realm. I mean, you could do many, many jobs with that diploma. So what are we doing today in 2016 with the same philosophy in place? So I think that makes all the sense in the world. Now, will we be able to get there? I don't know what the new administration's view is going to be, the college promise, and what will happen with the national agenda, what will happen in many of the states. But I'd like to think that there are some other things that we need to do at the same time. Now, at CUNY, because of the state TAP program and Pell, about 70% of our community college students don't pay tuition today. And that's terrific. The completion part is still, as we all talked about earlier, still suffering significantly. So what would I do with the next dollar of investment that I got from the state or the city? I might invest in ASAP. I might invest in more advising, academic advising, intrusive advising for our students. There are a lot of things I might do with that next dollar. And so in an environment where I think we're always going to be making choices, tough choices about resources, I think that's something we have to keep in mind. But are there other things we can do? And I think there are. And I think you mentioned some earlier, early college. Jill mentioned this earlier. If we can have more of our students, there are 20,000 in New York City right now taking college courses in high schools throughout the city, more of them get college credit while they're in high school, so they're accumulating credits and getting to degree faster, going for free at the time, so at least that part of it's free, and they're not having to use their Pell and TAP funding later to accumulate credits on their way to degree. That's a great opportunity for us, and we need to expand that in New York City and across the country. And I think there are a lot of strategies like that that will help us put together the building blocks that will reduce the cost and at the same time increase completion rates.
I totally agree with everything you've just mentioned. I think for us, our neediest students often have the benefit of financial aid. For those who don't, certainly free community college tuition would be wonderful. I'm actually going to quote you. It's that we hope that there is more. Where we see our neediest students really struggling is with the wraparound services, with the non-cognitive supports, with the non-academic provisions. We've invested in something called community college community schools. We're only at 5 of our campuses, and we have 30. But what we have is something sort of like a 2-1-1, where we call it Life Happens. You know, and what we've seen is students have hunger insecurity, homeless issues, problems with transportation, problems with everything you can imagine that just happens in life, and for our neediest students, it's a big deal. As you were speaking, Dr. Biden, I was looking at Tom because we were talking only the other day about this very thing. We have a high-performing student at one of our colleges. She's a nursing student who makes minimum wage. She's a nursing student. She makes a little more than minimum wage. She takes care of her mother. She needs childcare, and she had a flat tire. Because of the flat tire, she was prepared to drop out. Most of the things that students need to prevent them from dropping out cost $500 or less. And so we're hoping that there can be, if we were to have a proposal such as this come to life, that there would be support for additional wraparound services, because for a community college student, often it makes the difference between them completing persisting and completing.
Let me ask you a question. So you're in philanthropy, and perhaps...
What do you need, Tom?
Afterwards. We'll have a drink afterwards. Maybe the role of philanthropy may be actually increasing now, but what do you think in the situation that we have now, just in general, should be the role of philanthropy, both in the types of things that we've talked about today, better completion, issues of equity, as well as the problem of affordability?
So my foundation is almost exclusively focused on supporting research about education. There are other foundations that more directly provide services or that more directly support interventions. Our founder was an entrepreneur who developed a very successful education business called SRA, and some of you almost certainly experienced SRA readers when you were in grade school. And some of you loved them and some of you hated them. That's not my problem.
Loved them.
But what he said was that lasting improvement in education will come from better understanding of education. And I think Spencer holds that light up, and we try to focus there. That's not what every foundation should do, but I do think that the work at CCRC, the superb work that Judy Scott Clayton has done on better understanding placement for developmental students. I think the work that you and others have done, including Judy, that helped develop this clear idea of guided pathways. We need to keep that research moving forward and ask the tough questions about why do we have the problems we have, what will it really take to solve them, at the same time that we have somewhat larger foundations like the Gates Foundation, Lumina Foundation, investing over a broad range, but actually, depending a little bit on how you define research, not investing as much in research as we do. So I think that's a very important thing to keep going with.
Okay, I have now been told that was the last question, but actually I think that was an appropriate ending for our 20th anniversary. Perfect. I, of course, agree that research is going to help us understand.
And we'll talk later.
Yes. So thank you very much. I think we've had such a great evening. Dr. Biden, our panelists tonight, I think it's been very interesting. We've heard some, I think, inspiring information. I think it also, gives us more motivation to continue our work, both the work that we do as researchers as well as the work that practitioners do that learns from our research as well and continues to dedicate their work to improving the lives of their students. So thank you very much. It's been wonderful.
Thanks, Tom.